text group, Tanya, Leslie, and Susana.
Okay, the speaker we chose for our presentation is on Anna Eleanor Roosevelt and on her speech, The Adoption of Human Rights. This presentation is basically to inform you on her and on her speech, The Adoption of Human Rights. I will start off by telling you a little bit about her so you understand who she really was. Anna Eleanor Roosevelt was born in New York City on October 11, 1884. She was raised by her grandmother after her parents' death when she was only 8 years old, and she went to England to move with her. Her first chance to develop self-confidence among other girls and women was at the age of 15. And in 1905, when she was 21, she married her distant cousin, the President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And she became active in the Women's Division of State Democratic Committee, where she gave conferences, lectures, and radio broadcasts to express all of her opinions. Now Tanya will tell you the reasons why we chose her.
Our team picked Anna Eleanor Roosevelt because of her exceptional attitude towards all human beings, her great sensitivity to every underprivileged being, creeds, races, and nations. A little more history on her. Eleanor Roosevelt was the First Lady of the United States from 1933 to 1945 and supported the New Deal policy by her husband, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and assumed a role as an activist in the civil rights. Now I'll tell you a little bit of the significance of her speech. The Adoption of Human Rights Declaration speech was delivered December 9, 1948 in Paris, France. The document at hand was to hold people to a higher standard of conduct. Also to know the consequences of our own shortcomings and imperfection, and to join in our own efforts and in good faith to live up to our high standards for every man and woman, basically for human dignity. Now that I have showed you the significance, Susana will share some quotes from Eleanor.
Well, first of all, during her speech, she seemed very confident. She spoke very professionally, and she dressed appropriately for her era, during her era. And to back up all of her beliefs, she used a lot of sources and quotes from other documents, such as the Bill of Rights, and she had very good body language. And she used a lot of forceful persuasion. And I will now share with you a quote from her in her speech, and it states as follows. At a time when there are so many issues on which we find it difficult to reach a common basis of agreement, it is a significant fact that 58 states have found such a large measure of agreement in the complex field of human rights. As we were reading and listening to her speech, it kind of stood out because it relates to us in this country at a time like this, since there are so many issues going on. And she's basically trying to say that we should all work together to get out of problems, no matter what race, gender, and ethnicity you are. And now Tanya will share a second quote.
Near the end of Eleanor Roosevelt's speech, she stated, "As standards of conduct for all, let us as members of the United Nations, conscious of our own shortcomings and imperfections, join in our efforts and in good faith to stand up to a higher standard." The meaning of this quote is simple. It's holding people to a standard of conduct. And it enforces the rights of individuals to be free and to have equal access to public services. Now Leslie will tell you a little bit more.
On her speech, she also mentioned another quote, and that maybe it stands out the most because in just one simple quote, it tells you exactly what the entire speech says. And it's this one. This declaration is based upon the spiritual fact that men must have freedom in which to develop peaceful stature in their common effort to raise and live in human dignity. And we can relate to this because not everybody will say that it has that amount of ability to say, stand up for themselves. And this speech also helped us out to just be able to find that peace in us and say, hey, I'm gonna stand up for myself. And the inspiration that gave us this speaker was that she helped not only men but also women mainly to stand up for themselves. And she also change history and the minorities. She also was the first lady to stand in front of the whole entire United Nations and actually gave a speech entirely of mostly all men. And she was the only woman around there. And now that you were informed about her speech, we're going to do a little trivia game with a few questions. First question goes, what year did Eleanor Roosevelt give her speech on adoption of human rights? A, 1984, B, 1914, C, 1948, or D, 1998? Any volunteers? Yes? 1948. That is correct. It was in Paris. And another question would be, in front of whom did she give her speech? A, Congress, B, the United Nations, C, family and friends, or D, military? Yes?
B is the United Nations.
Yes, that is correct. It was in front of the whole United Nations, and it also was in Paris. Now, true or false? 1. Eleanor Roosevelt was raised by her great-grandmother. Yes?
Yes, Tim, that would be true.
And she lived with her grandmother, not great-grandmother. Another true or false? Eleanor married her distant uncle. Yes? False.
Distant cousin.
It was, yes, that is false. She also married her distant uncle. And to conclude, there's another memorial that she has in New York City. She died in November 7, 1962, after she was struck by a car in New York City. And then after she had that accident, her health just started to decline and started losing her strength, and she passed away at her house on November 7, 1962. And thank you.